Hey, Kevin Baas here, Vintage Bike Addiction, Baas Metalcraft. We're here today to look at some Stage 1 upgrades on this 2004 Ultra Classic. Now, what is a Stage 1 upgrade? What are stage upgrades? Well, we're going to work with Dennis Kirk on this to show you how simple and easy that just a general garage builder can do and transform their bike into something that's unique and their own. What's cool about Harleys is that there's so many different variations, so many different ways to make them look. And it all depends on you, the rider. It's your bike. Make it your own. And Dennis Kirk helps you do that all the way through, every step. Now, there's 4 stages to upgrades on bikes, typically, that Dennis Kirk will list on their website. And they're here to help you with any one of those. You get online, you look at the different products, and they're going to be shipped today when you order. Now, the Stage 1 upgrades we're going to talk about today, talk about things like exhaust, air cleaner, basic tuning stuff, looks of the bike, how does it look, how does it perform, is it comfortable? What can you do to upgrade your comfort level? Can you see well? Things like that. Stage 2 would be a little more in-depth where you start getting like cams and push rods. Stage 3, big bore kit and a motor. And then stage 4, you'd be porting your heads and going full blown. So stage 1 is definitely the one that most of us garage builders can do on our own. It's the most fun for us to do because that's when you take a bike, maybe you just bought a bike, you just got it, and it looks like everybody else's. Well, now it's time for you to tune it in and make it your own so that when you see it, you're like, yep, I did that, I did this, I changed that. So we're going to look at the Stage 1 upgrades today, and we're going to see how Dennis Kirk can help you get all those components, get them on your bike with your just basic mechanic skills, and have a bike that looks cool, performs well, and is going to make you happy. So we'll be right back, and we'll get after it. All right, here we are doing some Stage 1 upgrades to this 2004 Ultra Classic, thanks to Dennis Kirk. What we got going on here is just some basic upgrades. Make this bike look something like I want it to look like. You know, do some changes, make it a little more comfortable. A couple things that have been done to this bike already on the Stage 1. We did get some new grips through Dennis Kirk, a little more comfort level there in the chrome. They look good. We did put a phone mount on here so that when we're on the road and we need GPS or whatnot or music, that goes on there. We did put it in a new aquatic stereo. And Brian Clockworks windshield. And all this stuff came from Dennis Kirk. Went online, clicked on it, picked out your components that fit your year and model bike, and it shipped today and it got here. So a couple minor things, but they really help out. The windshield helps with the airflow. Bugs aren't in my face. My hat's not flying off. Grips are great for the comfort level, and again, the phone mount. Now we're going to look at comfort of the bike itself, sitting on a bike. We're going to look at our seat and the way this bike handles and sits. Now, the first thing to really remember is that a seat that has tears in it is going to cause a wet butt. Okay? Anytime these bikes are outside, it rains out, they get wet, this soaks up all that water and rainwater in there. So when you sit on it, it's just a big sponge, now your butt's wet. Nobody likes that. And I'm sure everybody out there has had that happen once or twice on an old bike or whatever. But we're going to address that today by getting rid of this old seat. And this is the stock style seat. And these seats, you know, they sell them on the bike from the factory. They kind of fit the look of the bike with a tour pack and whatnot, but overall comfort, there's a lot of upgrades nowadays that you can do to make these things way more comfortable. These bikes are made to hit the road, do a lot of miles, right? You want to only stop if you're doing a long trip and you need to cover so many miles a day. You really only want to stop when it's time to get gas. And if your seat's not comfortable, you start to get the sore spots, your back hurts, things aren't feeling right, you're going to have to stop a lot more often. It's going to cause problems. So we're going to look at today how to take this old stock seat off and do some upgrades to make it more comfortable and look better. So to start, to get your seat off with a bike like this, we have a tour pack on here. Now this is a quick release style tour pack. There are lights wired into it, so you want to start by disconnecting your wiring connectors. Pull them apart, make sure nothing is attached. Both sides will have them. Push in the tab and pull the connector out. They come out real nice. Now we can release the tour pack itself on the back side. And you want to be very careful when you do this step because you don't want to scratch your paint. I'm going to slowly lift it off. And then we'll move the tour pack into a safe location out of the way. Now you can see, just by taking that tour pack off, the whole bike's looks kind of changed. Now it's going from the big Ultra Classic full dresser to more of a sporty kind of a cruiser look. But like I said, the stock seat, now you look at the stock seat with the tour pack off, it has kind of that, doesn't really look that clean and smooth anymore. So we're going to look at taking this off and trying some other options. Now, one of the cheapest options anybody can do if you don't want to replace the whole seat, and maybe you have some cracks and tears, is just buy a strap-on style pad. And Dennis Kirk sells all kinds of different variations of pads. This one here, you can see there's a little Velcro or a rubber strap that will go in the front. And this would just strap right on there. Now this would help me obviously keep myself dry. It's waterproof underneath. The top has the nice fuzz to it, and it's a gel. So it'll make the ride more comfortable. Now there are many options. There's all kinds of different options that are gel seat covers that you can buy. And this is the cheapest, easiest, quickest way to do it. The other step now that we want to do with this one, since we know this seat, get that off. Since we know this seat needs to be replaced anyway, and we want to do something that looks a little cooler when I don't have the tour pack on, is we're going to take this seat off and we're going to try some different variations of some seats from Dennis Kirk. So stay tuned, I'll be right back and we'll get after it. All right, now we're going to continue our stage 1 updates here on this bike. Thanks to Dennis Kirk, Fix My Hog. We're here to show you how easy it can be to make your bike look a little bit different, a little bit cooler, and make it your own. So we talked about removing the tour pack, and we looked at the stock seat that the bikes come with. Obviously, we talked about the tears. It's got some problems with it. Water will come seeping through. With the tour pack off, it looks kind of bulky and out of place, not really cool for a solo rider. So we're going to do our first step here. Is just to take this seat off and swap it out. So to do that, all we have to do is remove the rear mount bolt here. Carefully remove that, set it aside. Now the seat should just lift up and slide out, as you can see there. So we got the front keeper here that goes into the frame, and then you got the rear tab that bolts to the fender. So now we can remove this old beat up torn seat and get rid of it and use some of our new Dennis Kirk replacements to show you how nice this can look. So this one gets put out of the way. The first one I'm going to try on here, this is a nice little solo seat. Now, yeah, you can still have a passenger on this, but traditionally when you have a really small pad in the back, it's not the best for somebody to be sitting on the back. This one's made more for, hey, I want to take this bike, I'm going to be by myself, just cruising. I'm not going to have a passenger. What can make this bike kind of really get smooth and sleek looking and a little more stylish? So we're going to take this one, install it there. And as you can see, it gives the bike a whole new look, a whole new dynamic. Everything kind of streamlines now more. You don't have that big, huge, bulky rear pad. You have a little more low profile in here, contours up to the tank better, and gives it just a nice little sportier look. Okay, so that's a good option. And it's nice with these bikes, like I say, you customize it to your own taste. Okay, there's, this one has red stitching, they have solid black ones, they have white stitching, they have all different color combinations, browns, you name it. Check out DennisKirk.com. You'll see their whole selection of seats and pick one out that looks right for you and feels right to you and put it on, and your bike is customized. Now, the other option I'm going to go with now, again, we talked about how you can have a seat like this now that's more streamlined. It might be a little less comfortable. We do have those gel pads that you can just lay right on the seat to ride and then take them off when you get parked so it doesn't look all bulky. But again, this is just an option, cheaper option to go. We actually have another style seat, a Saddleman style seat that has built-in gel that we're going to try next. So I'm going to remove that. We're going to take that seat off. And this seat now has kind of a combination of the stock bike look with a little more streamlined, and it's got gel built into it. And again, this one I got right off of DennisKirk.com. We'll put that one in, slide that in. All right, now that we have the nice Saddleman gel seat installed on the bike, we're going to put on the backrest that came with it. Again, thanks to Dennis Kirk for getting us this seat. And we're going to slide that in. And I'm going to swing a leg over just to see how it feels and give it its first test. So now again, what's nice about this seat, the gel, I can feel the gel. It removes those pinch and sore spots that you could get on traditional style seats. And now I have a nice backrest, so when I'm cruising down the road, I can lean back into that and really keep that lumbar support. And this feels great, feels great. So I want to thank Dennis Kirk. helping us get this thing comfortable, ready for some miles. When we come back, we're going to go on to some more stage 1 updates, which include lighting, tail light, headlights, and go from there. So see you soon. All right, now we're going to remove the license plate and license plate bracket, and then we'll be able to get the stock tail light off. So to get at your mounting bolts for the license plate bracket itself, you got to take the plate off. It's kind of hidden behind. All right, once you get the license plate off, you notice now there's your 2 bolts that are hidden behind that plate mount. When you get those off, all right, now you can see that that's off. We should be able to slide the tail light up once we get this disassembled. So we'll take off the cover first. Once the cover is loose, we got to disconnect the electrical here. Push up on the tab, that slides out nice and neat. Set that aside. Now we want to loosen up this bolt. Hold that on. And this one has never been touched before or off, so they should be a little sticky just from time, so you might have to pry it a little bit, wiggle it a little bit, get it moving. Just be careful, you don't want to slide up and scratch your paint or do any damage. All right, so the final step on removing the stock tail light, we want to disconnect all electrical connections. Carefully remove the backer plate, push the wires through. And on this stock style, there's a circuit board mounted inside this housing. We're going to reuse that circuit board with the new LED style. So you just got to pop that off. It just comes right off with a couple tabs. So this will no longer be used from the stock setup. Put that aside with the taillight itself, but we will reuse the circuit board. So as a direction state now, locate and provide a gasket, align it over the opening in a rear fender, pull the wiring harness through the gasket. So we have our gasket first. That comes off of the light itself. You can see how the gasket will match up with the light as seen there. So we know this is going to be the top and that's the bottom as seen there. So this gasket's going to go on that way for reference. And we're going to pull the wires through the gasket. There's some built-in little slots. All right, now that we have the wires pulled through the gasket for the new system, we got to pull the wiring harness components through the backing plate. This is the new backing plate that comes with the LED light. I need to pull that through. Make sure it's going to fit in there. That's got a clip. So now we can take our lights here, plug them in. And not a lot of room to work with, so it's tight. That tail light here. Now we got everything hooked up loosely, it's not together, so we're going to test this. We did run into an issue earlier where we shorted out a fuse so the brake light actually wouldn't work. So be very careful when you're disconnecting and reconnecting. Always double check that everything works before you do your final. in case something like that happens, because you don't want to get everything together and realize something's wrong. So we're going to turn on the ignition just to visually see that the light works, and we're going to hit the brake. And you can see the brake light now does actuate as required, so we're good there. So now I feel comfortable to start putting all this together as one piece. And again, not a lot of room to work, so it's going to be a little bit of a wiggle room here. Take this out first. Circuit board fits in only one way. So I'm going to seat that carefully, and then bring the backing plate on. There are two small Allens that go underneath. These are the hard ones now to get at. So you got to be careful. This might be a good time where if you had the know-how, add a little bit of extra length to those wires to give you a chance to pull it out. You just got to be careful, because when the wires tuck back in, they could hang and get caught by your tire. That's going to be rotating in there. So, all right, now that both bolts are tight, I'm going to do one more check just to make sure nothing got pinched or is inoperable and everything's still working, so we're good there. Now our final steps here are going to be seat the gasket up over our connectors here. So we no longer need the stock mounting threaded part there, because this is going to go through and be bolted to the backside. Now, giving it the first look, seated on there before it's bolted tight, you can see now we get a much nicer, cleaner, flush look. We got the nice American flag. And one last time, make sure it all works, which it does. And all I have to do is secure the nut underneath from the inside, which I'll do off camera, and she's ready to go. So a little bit of elbow grease, a little bit of sweat. You can see that just like anything, you're going to run into problems. There's a solution to every problem if you just think about it, sit back, look at it, reevaluate what's going on, and it'll come through and work right. So the Firefighter Special now has a nice American flag tail light LED, thanks to Dennis Kirk. And now we're going to move on to the headlights. Headlights. Next stage 2 update we're going to talk about are your headlights. One of the most important safety factors when you ride a motorcycle is having good headlights. Not only at night, but during the day when people can still see that light flashing. Motorcycles are smaller than a car, obviously. They often get overlooked. People don't see them. You want to have your lights on all the time. You want nice bright lights that'll catch the attention of other motorists so that they know you're there and you can stay safe. At night, very, very important. If your headlights are dirty, they're old, they're not up to par, it's very hard to see the road to get home at night. Plus, you don't see as many of the obstructions that might come up ahead, like deer running across the street or things in the road. So one of the most probably important stage 1 updates, I would say, would be to get yourself some really good bright lighting so that you can see the road, people can see you, and you can get yourself around safely. So on this one, we have the stock headlight and side lights here. We're going to replace this whole thing now with a new Hogworks LED blackout system. What's going to be nice about this is that not only has it got kind of a cool look to it with the black bezel and the bright lights, but it's going to give you, quadruple the lumigen going down the road. It's going to be way brighter than what this old stock style light is. And they're durable, they last forever. LEDs don't draw as much power, but they're brighter and they don't burn out like the traditional bulbs would. So to begin this, we're going to start just by removing the stock assembly here, and then we'll see what it takes to retrofit this LED system into this bike. Now in the manual, I always recommend looking at the manual. The manual does tell you how to take out the headlight and whatnot. They do in mine, when I looked at it, it says to remove the whole front fairing to work on this. We don't need to do that for what we're doing. We can get everything from the front. So to save ourselves a lot of time and work doing something we don't have to do, we're going to not take the fairing off itself, but we're just going to take this bezel off the front and work right from outside. Again, though, look at your year, make, and model of bike. Some maybe do require this has to come off. Maybe they don't have removable, depending on what you have. So real important to always look at what model you have and go from there. So I'm going to carefully remove that trim. Now another thing that's kind of important, if you're really worried about your paint job and worried about maybe dropping something, is always kind of cover up your fender, cover up areas where if you drop something you don't chip that. So I just usually lay just a soft cloth or something over that. I don't go overkill on it, but that way if you would drop it, you're not going to chip the paint. Okay, so now that we have the bezel off, now we can see here that this headlight's held in by this little trim ring here with 3 screws. So I'm going to take them off. Start with the lower one here. Now when I remove the top one, I kind of use my hand here to hold the light just so it can't fall out and hit the fender. You wouldn't want to be freehanding up here because then when that releases, this can drop out. So I'll put my hand there to kind of support the light while I take that last screw out. And now I can keep it supported and carefully pull it out here. Disconnect your plug. Little 3-prong plug there, and now I can take this and set it aside as well. So now we got our stock headlight out. Now we're going to be running this LED style, but you'll notice the back side of this is quite a bit different than the back side of the stock style. This has the small, narrow, skinny, it fits through there. This would not fit in there. Okay, with the LED technology and the wiring and the circuitry they need, totally different animal here. So that means that this whole mounting bezel there is going to get replaced as well. And Hogworks was nice enough to know that in advance and supply you a new one in their kit. So here's going to be our new one that replaces the old one. See the difference? This has more room for it to fit where that was too small. So now we want to take the stock bezel out of there so that we can hook up our new system. Okay, and just looking over the directions, it's always nice to give it a quick look, make sure everything's on the right track. You will reuse some of the stuff. Okay, so to take this out, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, looks like 4 star Torx bits that hold this bezel in place. I'll grab my Torx screwdriver. All right, now that that's been removed, again, you can see how we're replacing one with the other. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. Now we want to mount our bezel. You can see that the mounting screw tab for that trim ring, because we will reuse the original trim ring here, and it's only got 1 screw at the very bottom. So we want to keep that indexed correctly so that that's still at the bottom. So we know that's going to be up, that's going to be down. So with our trim ring mounting right there, pull our wires through here. Kind of line that up and see where we have screw holes that match. And snug. There, that thing's nice and tight. All right, so now that we have our new bezel housing in for the light, we can take our stock light. It does have a protective coating on it, just to be careful if you would scratch it or drop it by accident. There is a top and a bottom. It says Hogworks here. You can read it DOT, so you want that upright. It will also fit in. There's some slots here with the headlight where it only fits in a certain way. Headlight is installed. Now the moment of truth. Notice how much brighter that is. Highs and lows. So everything's working good. That's going to give us much better visibility on the road. People will see us a lot better. And that's a nice, fairly easy stage 1 upgrade. Now we're going to do one more upgrade to the lighting system, doing our spotlights. And we will use some more of the Hogworks brand LED lights from Dennis Kirk. Great quality, easy to install. Open these up. Again, these ones here, nice black. It'll match nicely up front. There's an adapter if needed, depending on how the wiring looks when I get it apart. Just looking at the instructions quick, just basically taking the old ones out, and you should plug in. So let's see how it goes. We'll start with this one on the right side. Set that aside. Trim ring pops off. Okay, so this is a good learning experience for everybody. My spotlights there, you can see, have the old style. There's 2 separate plug-ins coming in. So on a newer style bike, this will be a plug and play right into your harness here. I have a 2004 we're working on right now, which has the older style wiring, but they supply you with this nice adapter. So all I have to do is cut these 2 wires, splice them into this, and then we'll have plug and play spotlights. So what I'm gonna have to do now is go get a wiring kit so I can snip these wires and do a little soldering. We'll get going on that here shortly. We'll be right back. All right, so now we're gonna get ready to trim these wires or cut them to splice into our adapter for our LED spotlights. So I'm just gonna trim each one off. Take the stock one, set aside. I will be reusing this housing. Now the black wire here goes to ground, which you can see is grounded to our bezel. The gray black wire is our power. On our adapter, we have a red and a black. Red is obviously power, black will go to the black for the ground. So what I'm going to do here then is just carefully strip the sheathing off my wires, my wire stripper. Give me enough to work with. Strip the wires here. So we have nice bare wires to be able to splice these together. We're going to use some of these soldered heat shrink marine boat connectors. What's nice about these is when you put your wires together, splice them, you put this over, and as you heat shrink the heat shrink tubing cinches tight and waterproofs it. But also then there's a nice low voltage solder on there that will melt and actually create a soldered connection. I always recommend any kind of wiring, anything that could potentially get wet, always solder your connections, always use heat shrink tube, make sure that it's secure, because water will get into that stuff and cause problems. So I'm going to slide the heat shrink tube over the first connection here. Go past. Then we'll connect our 2 wires by twisting them around each other, locking them in nicely. Then we bring our shrink tubing over the top with our solder right in the middle, covering your connection. Now I can use my heat gun. Now when I look at this, I can see that the solder did melt and connected those 2 joints. And then our heat shrink tube sucked itself tight. Now it's a waterproof, tight soldered connection. Nice and simple. Do the same for the other side. Oh, there we go. And now I think you can tell just from seeing what you see, quite a difference in the brightness. That people are going to see, that's going to lighten up the road, that's going to keep you safe. You notice how dull and dark looking that one was. So real good upgrade, nice stage 2, easy to do type upgrade. And it's gonna make a big difference on the road. I'm excited to see this at night. So now the last step will be to tuck our wires, keep everything secure. Again, there's an up and a down. And then we'll reuse the old stock bezel here. That over the top. We want to make sure we line these up. There's 3 vertical glass lenses there. We want those lined up this way so that your light shines correctly. It does say DOT SAE at the top, so make sure that's at the top just like over here. Then we know we're lined up correctly. And we can use our standard hardware again. Nice and snug. And before I do the other side, you can also just visually look at the aesthetics, how much better this looks with that compared to what the stock style setup would have been. And again, much brighter. All right, we'll go ahead and take the other side apart, strip the wires, solder it, get it back together, and then we'll be buttoning up the headlights and running lights. Looking good. Easy, fairly easy. Very important upgrade when you do stage 1, again, is the lighting. As you can see, the look now gives you kind of a nicer look with the blacked out backing and the LED lights. It's going to give me plenty of light on the road. Looks nice with our tinted windshield. And we're ready to hit the road and test everything out. So as you've seen from all the stage 1 things so far, you know, a lot of these things, they take a little bit of time. You might run into a few little snags here and there, a little bit of elbow grease, but you know, a basic garage builder can do this stuff. It's not out of your reach. Just don't get frustrated. We all hit snags, we all hit some problems, and it happens. You just got to stop, take a deep breath, reevaluate the problem. There's always a solution to every problem. Take your time and you'll get it and you'll be successful and have the outcome similar to this, where you got something that you can be proud of now and show off to your friends when you're cruising down the road. So our last steps to the stage 1 upgrade are going to be, we're going to go ahead and replace our spark plugs with some new spark plugs. And then we're going to do a little bit of a kind of a chrome bezel trim ring package on here to dress up our dash. And then we'll have this bike looking pretty good. We can get out on the road and pound some more miles. All right, the next step in our stage 1 upgrade, just kind of helping this bike get to run better, feel better, look better, is our spark plugs. Now the manual does state you should inspect your spark plugs at 5,000 miles and replace them every 10,000 or so. It's good common practice though, just to pull them out maybe once a year and check them, because what the spark plugs are going to do, they're going to tell you a story. If you pull a spark plug out and it's really dark and sooty and black on it, it's running really rich. If it's really white and not, you know, chocolate brown colored, it's running lean, and you don't want that either. So you want that nice look to it. The book does give you pictures, tells you what different scenarios are, whether you're lean, you're rich, things are going wrong with it. In this case now, we're going to use these E3 high performance spark plugs instead of the stock ones. The gap for this, we look at our gap, it says that we want to be gapped at about 0.38 to 0.43. So we have our spark plug gap tool here. We're going to come around here, pull the spark plug boot on one cylinder first, put our spark plug wrench on there, carefully break the seal, being careful not to pull or twist to snap that off. All right, so as you can see here, with the electronic fuel ignition on this thing, it does kind of regulate that. We got a nice little chocolate brown color. It's not running too rich. If that was real white looking, it would be too lean. So this bike is running pretty optimal. Then we'll check our gap just to see where they have these at. We put our gap tool in there. So they're right around 0.040, 40 thou, which is good. Take one of our new plugs out of the package here. Being careful not to drop it. That one looks good. Right about 040 as well. Be real careful. You don't want any debris to be around here. It could fall in your cylinder. Make sure that when you put these in, you carefully thread them in correctly. Don't cross thread. If it fights you, stop. It should go in smooth and easy. Again, if I would feel any major resistance or problems, I would stop and check my threads, make sure it's not cross-threading, there's no garbage in there. Get them just finger tight, then I will put my plug wrench on there. Just snug. Spark plug boot back on, front cylinder. And again, just always look, make sure there's no garbage or debris. If there would be, you'd want to blow that out beforehand. This one's pretty clean. Front one's running a little bit richer than the rear, but it's not bad or it would be falling out. So I'm not going to worry about that at this time. It's been running good. Gaps look good. All right, now that we got them on, I will just do a quick start, make sure everything's good. So start's good, should run good now, and again, you want to check those plugs. I do it once a year just to make sure nothing's going on there. Even things like if your air cleaner gets clogged up, that can cause the bike to run real rich, and by pulling the plugs, it'll tell you that story. So good rule, try to do that once a year. At least pull them out, look at them if you don't replace them, and your bike will run real good. The last update now we're going to do in the stage one is going to be a little dress-up kit. We're going to dress up our gauges with some chrome bezels. All right, for the last step of our stage one upgrade, we're going to do a little bit of a trim ring chrome accessory kit. And that's going to kind of dress up our gauges. Give us a little fancier look than the stock. These go on with some double-sided stick tape. So all you got to do is put the stick tape on, line them up on there, make sure everything's clean. I wiped everything down with acetone first. And stick it on. Now you can see where your gauges are inside there. Got a little chrome dress-up kit. So we have all the different gauges to do. So there is the double-sided stick tape, goes on. And then the trim ring pushes on nice and snug. You hear it kind of seat itself. So you can kind of see the difference of the nice chrome compared to the stock black. Make sure they're nice and snug. That way the double-sided stick will do its job. Lock that in. All right, now as you can see, the stock kind of bland gauges got dressed up. Nice little chrome trim rings. Very simple, easy to do fix, but now it matches up good. Well, there you have it. That's your stage one upgrades. Just to kind of go over it one more time, what do we all do with this bike? What makes this thing different now to be in that stage one upgrade? We did the headlight. We did the spotlights with the nice LED blacked out lights. We got a Clockworks, nice low profile windshield on here. We got some Kiriakin grips, which help make it more comfortable. We put a Ram full phone holder on there. We did our chrome bezel trim package. We have the new seat which will give us more comfort and longevity in our rides. We did the tail light with the nice American flag LED Kiriakin to match our firefighter special. And other things that are included in stage one would be like your exhaust tips. We have some Vance & Hines exhaust on here now to help it run a little better and sound a little better. We did the spark plugs, updated spark plugs with some high performance spark plugs. And other little things like custom shifter pegs, horn cover, air cleaner cover, all that stuff can be done to really make the bike your own. And the biggest thing you want to do is just, sit back, look at your bike, think about the stage one updates you can do and understand that you can do it. Don't feel like you got to take it to a shop, take it to the dealership and pay twice as much to have it done. If you got some wrenches at home, you get on DennisKirk.com, put in your make, model of your bike. Everything that's compatible with it will show up. You can pick through that, put in your shopping cart, order it, and it ships today, and you'll have it in the next day or two. So go out there, get that bike dialed in, and we'll see you on the road.